Hi, second graders. Our objective for today is I can add 3-digit numbers with regrouping using the right to left strategy. So yesterday we saw our right to left strategy compared with branching, just so you could see how those two relate. So today our focus is we are just going to do right to left. So we're going to start with one example that I'll walk you through. And then after that, I'm going to have you join in with me and do these problems so that you can get more practice. So our first one is 159 plus 4. When I set up the problem, I go ahead and I rewrite the problem vertically. Remember, I like to use notebook paper turned sideways to help keep me organized so that I make sure my ones are lined up, my tens are lined up, and my hundreds are lined up. So for right to left, I start on the right side of the paper. And so on the right side of my paper, I have my ones. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to add together 9 plus 4. 9 plus 4 equals 13. So I'm going to write it in this first row right underneath my line. So when I write 13, I have my 3 in the ones place. And then I know that my 1 goes over into the tens place because this represents 110. Next, I'm going to add my tens together, and I'm going to write that answer right underneath where I wrote my ones. So now I am adding 5 plus 0 because there aren't any tens in my second add-in. But this 5 isn't actually 5. It's actually 50, right? So what I'm adding is 50 plus 0. Well, 50 plus 0 is just 50. Now let's move on to my last place value. My last place value is my hundreds. That goes right underneath my tens, and I'm going to add 100 plus 0. 100 plus 0 is just 100. Again, I have it nice and lined up. My ones column, my tens column, my hundreds column. Then for right to left, my next step is to add all of these together. So I like to start by looking in my ones, and then my tens, and then my hundreds. So my answer is 163. So 159 plus 4 equals 163. Now it's your turn to do some problems with me. So go ahead and grab your paper, grab a pencil, and let's get started. Our first problem that we are going to do together is 41 plus 268. So on your paper, go ahead and write the problem vertically, so up and down, 41 plus 268. And make sure that your ones are right in line, your tens are right in line, and your hundreds are right in line. Now that you have the problem written, let's go ahead and start in our ones. So right now for my ones, I am just looking at the numbers in the ones place value. So I am going to add 1 plus 8. What is 1 plus 8? 1 plus 8 equals 9. So I'm going to write my 9 in my first little row right underneath my problem. 1 plus 8 equals 9. Now I am just going to look in my tens place. So I'm going to be adding 4 plus 6. But really it's 4 tens plus 6 tens, or 40 plus 60. So what is 4 tens plus 6 tens? That equals 10 tens, and I know that 10 tens is equal to 100. So now I'm going to write my 100 on my next row underneath my ones. So I have to make sure that I have my 1 in my hundreds, and then I have my zeros in my tens and my ones. Now I'm going to look in my hundreds, and I'm going to add 0 plus 2, 200. 0 plus 200 equals 200. So write it with me right underneath your tens. So this one was the ones, This one was the tens, and this one was the hundreds. Notice how when we're adding with regrouping, we might have a tens that goes into the hundreds because we're using regrouping. So now what we're going to do is we are going to add all of these numbers together. So I like to go back to use our algorithm trick. So I'm going to add 9 plus 0 in my ones. 9 plus 0 is 9. Now I move on to my tens. 0 plus 0 is 0. And now let's move on to our hundreds. I have 1 plus 2. 1 plus 2 is 3. So our answer for 41 plus 268 equals 309. Let's move on to our next problem, 325 plus 158. Go ahead and write your problem vertically, up and down. Line up your ones, your tens, and your hundreds. Let's start in our ones. We have 5 plus 8. Write down your answer. What is 5 plus 8? Did you get 13? Now let's move on to our tens. We have 2 tens plus 5 tens. Write down your answer for that one. Remember, you're going to write it right underneath where you wrote your answer for your ones. Did you get 70? And now finally, let's add our hundreds. We have 300 plus 100. Write that underneath your tens. Do you have 400? Okay, now our next step, remember, is to combine all of our partial sums together. So we're going to add 13 plus 70 plus 400. My strategy is to start in the ones. 3 plus 0 equals 3. 1 plus 7 plus 0 equals 8. 0 plus 4 equals 4. So 325 plus 158 equals 483. Let's do one more together. Let's do 462 plus 259. Write that problem. Line up your ones, line up your tens, line up your hundreds. Now that you have your problem written, let's start in our ones. For our ones, we are going to add 2 plus 9. Write that sum down beneath the problem. Hopefully you wrote 11 with the 1 in the ones and a 1 in the tens. Next, let's add our tens. We have 6 tens plus 5 tens. My trick for doing this is 6 plus 5 equals 11, but it's not 6 plus 5, they're tens, so 6 tens plus 5 tens equals 11 tens, or 60 plus 50 equals 110. So I'm going to write 11 tens, or 110. Now we're going to add our hundreds. We have 4 hundreds plus 2 hundreds. 400 plus 200 equals 600. Okay, now that I have all my partial sums written down, I'm going to add them together. Go ahead and add yours first, and let's see if we get the same answer. I got a 1 in the ones, a 2 in the tens, and a 7 in the hundreds. So 462 plus 259 equals 721. For this last problem, I want you to solve it on your own. So go ahead and pause the video, solve this problem using right to left, and then come back to check your answer. Your answer should have been 633. If you got that, great job. If you didn't, check my work versus yours to see if you can see where your mistake was. Now that we've finished all of our practice together, it's your turn to do the independent practice. And so there is a worksheet that you are going to submit into Edgenuity when you are done. There are 4 problems on this worksheet, and you'll notice these first ones, I have the boxes kind of shaded in to remind you where those different partial add-ins go. So for example, the 1s would go here, the 10s would go here, and then your final answer is down here. Same with over here in the hundreds, but on the second 2, I did not give you those boxes, but I do still want you to use the right to left strategy on all 4. So just because I didn't give you those boxes doesn't mean I don't want you to do it that way. I do still want you to use right to left on all 4 problems. All right, and don't forget to turn it in when you finish.